the nook of Zeranpin, the actual the malchus itself, which is a parts of which is on the front of Zeranpin and not in the back. So I just want to say that it seems confusing to me. I really don't understand it. And for next year, I just want to say that out, is that you have one place he says you're only dealing with the Atarasi Yisod of Zeranpin, and another place we see that there's also a malchus, which is in a completely different position, about that. So why are we building up the Ataras Yisod Zeranpin? What does that mean? I'm not sure. So it has maybe a little something to do with this too, because we have things that are out of place and the RASHASH is trying to put together. So the words begin like they say to Tikkun Dezun. Gvar nisbor la'el b'harichus seder ha'tikkun shal partzufi zun me'ez etzilusim ad zivug. But Nisbar Sham, it says over there, should call parts of Kolo Ma'ach upon him. So he explained some concept of that. Val Seidahu Shetachidach Besaknim is parts of Ach Shalo. Al Yedei Shemam Shichin Lo Mochin Da'ach. Velachem Mekam Besaknim is parts of upon him Shalo, but Yedei Shemam Shichin Lo Mochin upon him. Velachem Mekan Bekan Na'asach Zivul. Okay, so that's basically we understand. There are three different things that are going on. When are they going on? Nimsa sheseder tikkun kol mishlosha cholokim. So the tikkun for zun has to do with three different portions. Tikkun ha'ach shebo nimshach and amochin ha'ach lezun v'nishlomim kumas ha'ach, and then the column of the ach is completed. Shalom la'as so spheros in order to be able, into 10 spheros. Then you have something here, a dormita, v'chanesira, that's going to be another stage, v'zivug bia rishona, which leads to a bia rishona. Try to remember these ideas again, to get familiar with them again. B'chek abba v'ima, they go up to the chek of abba v'ima, and as a result of that, there's a yichud there. B'chein tikkun parts of upon the zun, and then also you have a tikkun for the parts of the face of the zun, shabon nimshachin, and mochin upon the zun. The nishloma kumas uponim shadachem as a spheros. Now you have that, and then the third part is going to be the zivuga gomer dezun. Now, so what's the problem? So he said mechadish of RASHASH. So the RASHASH is going to come along and he's going to bring us a novel idea. Shemilvad seder chatika naranka naase b'kol yom b'partzufim zun hapratim anisakne b'tfilos, which are rebuilt during the tfilos. Shehem na'asa seder tikkun shalom b'kol yom. So we know that this has yeshno parts of acher, but there's another parts of. What does he mean by parts of here? Hanikra parts of kadsha kolol. So there's another system of light that's actually taking place, and it has this name. It's the parts of kadsha kolol. Shabo nimshach seder tikkun. That in that now you have amshacha of the order of the tikkun and nizka shlosha yomim, but it takes 3 days to get through it. That's our subject. That's how we got into this whole back part. So each one of those three things, which are ach, upanim, and then yichud, the ultimate yichud for Veleda, takes place over the course of 3 days. Call yom nisaking parts of chadash. Every day you have a new hamshachol, or a new tikkun. Shebemeshach shisa alvei shenin nisaknim kol yom partzufim chadashim, and every day is a new partzuf. Achein the parts of a nisake ba'osach yom no nishla tikuna bo b'yom. So according to this, then the tikkun doesn't take place on that day. Ella nimshach tikkun b'meshach shlosha yomim, but the tikkun for the parts of the kadshos actually takes 23 days. Kagon parts of shel yom echad. Let's say that. B'shvua, so it's a little maybe there's more to be said about this. Is a yom echad b'shvua nimshach meshach tikune b'yomim echad beis and gimel. So it takes 3 days for the tikkun to take place for the first day of the week. For parts of shel yom beis b'shvua nimshach meshach tikkun b'yomim beis gimel adalad. So if you're going to start counting the first one, then it's going to take days aleph, beis, and gimel. If you start with the second one, it's going to take beis, gimel, and dalad. You have always this overlapping kind of concept. The question is why do we need this? B'yomim beis, gimel, and dalad b'chein kulam al derek zeh. Then all of them go this way. Now I'm going to look at some of the details try to understand them. It's simple enough what he said. Is he said this business of kadsho. Let's see what he says. Number Aleph down below says, why the Rashash had to come off to this idea that there's some kind of a tikkun taking place every 3 days. I don't know what the right word, they're sequential, so that you keep building the 3 days on top of the 3 days on top of the 3 days. I don't know when it stops or where it starts. I'm not sure 100%. So he says, Shaot chatzos alaylo na'asis dormita v'nesira. Until that time, you're making a dormita and nesira. Oh, just let me ask you, how long do we have? What time do we stop today?
6:45.
Oh, so we have a long time. We have plenty of time. So he says, "V'hu b'mashim b'vura b'drusha halayla sha'ad chatzos halayla na'asis dormita v'nesira." Said up until that time, he said. Let me start it over again. Bir mefarshin shahechru shal rishas lechiyos lechidish zeh hu b'mashim b'vura b'drusha halayla. See, here's what it says on Drush Alayla. Ad chatzos alayla. So that means from the beginning of the nighttime. Ad chatzos na'asis dormita v'nesira. That takes place at that time. We have a quote. This is a quote from the Rav. V'chatzos alayla na'asis zivug dekli v'rucha. There's a yichud that takes place which he calls kli and rucha. V'hu temua. But this is something you have to wonder about. The halacha b'kama b'komos. A lot of different places. That's really where you start to get into the mochad uponim. The birchas avos, the shachris. That's when it takes place. It doesn't take place after nightfall. And there's lots of other places where there's steers in what he says it happens at this time or that time. So then the Rashash comes and he proves the Yeshdan Shei Sidra Tikkunim is two different things going on at the same time. So one is that during the 4 prayers that we say, there are tikkunim going on. And in that, you have that's what's taking place at the place of Ava. We know there's a tikkun takes place there. Vasheni who's Seder Tikkun de Kadsha, and then the other one is going to be a Tikkun that takes 24 hours. Shabo Na'asach Nesira, so that in that is making the Nesira, V'chazivu, the Kli, V'rucha, B'layla, so that takes place at that time. Gavur Shiyavur, so this is going to be explained as we go on a little bit more. So let's go back up to the top again, and let's see what he says here. He says, "V'chaseder hatikun hu this. This is the order of the tikkun. Shebemesher shlosha yomim na'asa b'kol yom cheluk echad b'shloshes cholkei hatikun and niskarim." So this is for, like he said, for example, the tikkun ha'ach, the tikkun ha'ponim, and then finally the third day would be the zivug u'glolom, and he's going to explain it more. So he said, "B'yom harishon na'asa tikkun ha'ach shel parts of izun." So again, so saying like this. So on the first day, you're making a tikkun in the ach. And that's a simple explanation. Mochin the ach come into zer anpen at that time. And then he's going to be mamshech them to the nook of an isakenes af he be'eses firasecho. And as a result of that, she's going to get it too. But this is on the first day, and we're dealing with the Acharayim, so she's going to get this shefa from the Acharayim of Zer Anpin also. So let's see a little bit more. Let's go down to number bet down below and see if we can stay with it. So he said, V'hine noida, the called parts of Kol B'ma'u Ben. So I think that's where we're at. Every part of has a female and male aspect to it. So he's going to call Echem Mechem Kolo Avku Ma'u Ben, and then each one is the Ma'u Ben. Apparently, is a Ma'u Ben de Ma and a Ma de Ben de Ben. So he's a Ba'ofen should call parts of Kolo Ma'arba Bechinas Ma de Ma Ben de Ma de Ben U Ben de Ben. Now, as we said, remembering back to what we said before. These orders, or this understanding of these, he has different ones, different perspectives on them at different places. But let's go on. And the Rashash explains like this: The Seder HaTikkun the Yom HaRishon, the Seder of the Tikkun on the first day, Na'asa ba'arba zemanim chalukim, it takes place on 3 different times. Na'asa ba'arba on 4 different times. Metachilas alayla, so let's start like this. After Marav, so you're going to daven Marav tonight, or everybody's going to daven Marav, let's say. Metachilas alayla, achatzos alayla, nisake na'ach, the parts of ben de ben. You're making a tikkun in the parts of called ben de ben. That's the malchus of the malchus that would be the darkest place, let's say, for example. Maybe that's dark is the right word. Bechatzos alayla v'chad boiker nisake na'ach, the parts of ben de ben. Then you do the ach of the parts of a ben de ben. Machaboker v'ad chatzos yom nisake na'ach, the parts of ma de ma. It's the daytime, and in the morning, it goes along with the idea that originally having in the morning, you're dealing with the highest levels. So number daled, and now you're going to go from midday, ayom, ad halayla, nitzake na'ach, the parts of ma de ben, then you have the ach of the parts of a ma de ben. But this is only in regards to the tikkun of the first day, which is the tikkun of the ach. So you have these things going at these 4 different times during the day. They all come about at the same time. Now, I'm not sure exactly what that means, they're coming around at the same time yet, but let's see how it goes. Let's read a little bit more. So he says like this on, I'll back up to the top again. So he says, Biyom HaSheni, on the second day, Na'asa Chedek HaSheni Shalatikun, then the second part is going to come, which we're going to be dealing with the Panim, but the Chidus Alayla, Na'asa Darmita, and Mistalkim Amochem Mizer Anpen. So this is another state. Then we start going into Darmita and Nesira. But Nimshach and Amocha de Devuna Alonok, so ultimately, since there's a Nesira, the Mochin are going to go directly into the Nook. Then after, remember, we're on the second day now, which is going to bring in Mochin upon him. Olim zum lechek abba ve'ima mizdavim zivug bia rishona the kli varucha, and we make a yichud there of the bia rishona the kli varucha. So that's when I was reading over, trying to get into the Simmons 6 or wherever we're at in the back, I saw this phrase. I couldn't remember what he was talking about. He said, "This is the beginning of starting to make the yesod of the nook. And then comes the mochin upon him." We have a little note down here in number Gimel, and this is hopefully that we'll be able to get a little background here of what's going on and remember this. So he said, so the Hamshacha, the flow, actually comes, this is begins at the Birchus HaShachar. Now, I'm not sure what he means here. He said, previously, Abba ve'im v'zdavin zivu bir rishon to kliv rucha v'la'ach mekan nimshachan dezun amochan upon him. Okay, so he says, v'hamshachan na'aseh be'birchus HaShachar. So in the morning, that's when you start to get this flow here. The birchus hanos in the Sachvi, when you say that phrase, a zivug da aber, so he says, l'havchin ben yom ben lai. That's the rest of that. Naas is zivug da aber ve'imach hakolon the kadsha. Their yichud takes place at that time between the abba be'ima in the parts of kadsha. V'nimshach and the mochin the achu panin the zok, and it causes as a result of that all the mochin to flow into the nok. V'la'achar mekan bebirchas ha'ma'avir shena yotzin ha'mochin menok. Then the nochim yotzim ha'mochin menok v'nitnasa b'zer anpen b'meshech hayom, and they come back into zer anpen for the rest of the day. V'hu mamshichem el lenok ubonach, and then they go into zer anpen, and then they build up the nok more. So this is what she's around. There's a Nasira already in that story. So it's a lot of moving parts in this. So I just want to try to say them again and try to get an idea of what's going. So B'yom HaShlishi, now, in the beginning of the third day, But the chilas halayla, well, I guess it would be that you always have this problem also, that in the simple understanding is that in Shachris it's the Kli Panimi, and the Mincha it's going to be the Kli Soy, and in Marav it's going to be the Kli Chitzon. That's on the daily. The problem with that is that when you get to Marav, you're really in the next day already. So that's another complication, but I don't know we're dealing with that right now. So on the third day, at the beginning of the night, so this is what happened. This is the third day. The Mochin leaves Zun. V'yordin Zun Bia and Ziv. What happens to Zun then? Zun goes down into Bia. The Barna Birurim Alomos Bia Haloisim, in order to go to mine out Birurim. Laloisam Laman, in order to bring them up into Mayim Nukme, but defeated Shakris. Then when morning comes, Chosrim Ve'ola Beyachadim Alomos Bia, so they come back up into Atzilus, from the Olomos of Bia, the Atzilus, and he says what? The Bia de Atzilus. And the reason why he says that is because it's actually something like this is happening in every part. So if we're going to look at that, but that is, there is an Abia or Abia of Atzilus. So the Im Aloma Bia de Atzilus, Vachabirurim, Hayomim, Anivronim, Va'olim, B'tefilu Shakris, and then you have the day, that particular day of Birurim, come up in the Tefillas of Chakras. The Naasa Zivug the Abba Ve'ima, and as the causes of that, this is Mayim Nukvin, and it's bringing a Yichud to come into Abba Ve'ima, the Nolde Mochim Chadashim Yosef Ve'ulav and Nimshach and the Zon, and it brings new Mochim. They come into Zon, the La'achem Bekan, but the Tefillas of Payim, the Chakras, the Asa Chazivug, Hagomor Luchaleda, and that's the Yichud that takes place for the of Kadshaus on the third day. Now, previously we saw this phrase where it says the Chayomim Anivrorim of Olim B'Tefilas Shachris. So let's see what he says over here. There's a little depth here, and we'll try to go through it here. Kamavur B'Nar Shalom, as explained in the Nar Shalom. So he's, let's see, it's 6:20. Okay, v'zecha v'deshona b'kitzer. So we'll do this one, and then we'll move over, I think. He says, Gam noide, kicha biruram amizbarda v'olchem l'man d'zun. So those birurim that have every day for zun, b'kol yom, al yedecha tefillah v'chamitzvah she'osim yisracha m'nikroim bonin d'zun. So that causes birurim. So also the same thing is going on in upper partsufim, not just zun. So because each one of them actually has 10 spheros, so in Ovi they're all happening. So the partsufim shalechem, they go up into man, to the partsufim that's above them, which is, in relatively speaking, would be the avsag da'ak of that particular partsufar, would be way up to the top, which would cause shefa to come down. He says, but because this one zivug takes place, it's impossible for the birurim to become completely and totally mesukah. So this original zivug, which came as a result of the mayim nukfin that came up with the birurim, that's not enough to really make a tikkun in Zun. I think he's talking about Zun, V'hinei, Osam, Abirurim. Anyway, let's go to Achakach, Rosrim, Haim, so then the Birurim go back down. Haim, Osam, Abirurim, Im, together with Zun. This is another time that Zun goes down. The red is the Vara, V'la'alos, Od, Nitzutzos, Cherim, Laman, the parts of Ha'elyon. So they're going to what? They're going to go down. Labara v'la'alos od nitzusin. They're going to do it a second time. They're going to become man, the parts of Elyon, which is the parts of above them. Hahu histakim. They're going to come and they're going to do it again. V'shochim mitzachnim sham, and they wait there. They're held back there. V'hem mistaknim sham la'at, and while they're there, there's a tikkun that takes place little by little. Because chemshech zeman nikuvim, as long as that all through the extension or the extension of the time that they're there. Shom ad bo es hazivug hasheni, until the time for the second yichud takes place. Va'az nigmar tikkunim, because it takes two yichudim in order to make a complete tikkun in the birurim that came up during the first time. Va'az nigmar tikkunim mishal netzutzas rishonos. Then what happens is, though, that causes a yichud to take place, a tikkun to take place in the first set. In other words, first you brought up some zivugim, some birurim. They got a shefa as a result of the mayim nukfin and the mad that came down to them, but it's not enough to make a complete tikkun in them. So the question is, what does the complete tikkun accomplish? So it makes it possible for the light to flow of the Ein Sof Baruch Hu to flow. Through this second yichud. But now you have a second set of birurim, but this is the first time that set is coming up. So only a small amount of tikkun takes place in those because it's their first time. Ki ba'archam hu zivug rishon. So then what happens is these second set of nitzutzos, now they're big, they got a shtickle tikkun. Chosrim imazun lered od levar v'lalos nitzutzos acherim the parts of the elyon the tesake. So they're going to do the same thing again. Go back down and work on mining out birurim again. Bring the bizurim back up. Those birurim is going to be first timers again, but this is the second time for the first group. The gormim zivug elyon, they cause a yichud up above. Which would be the second one, the second time that they went down to the birur. Now that they come back up, they're bringing more, birurim along with them. The old birurim that are coming back up are now going to be mesukat. But always the new ones that you're bringing back up are going to be the first time for them, and they're going to have to go through a process. And they only get a little shtickle of the tikkun. So you have this merry-go-round going along every single day, which is similar to the concept of the Kadshos, really, because you're not getting every day is a new set of birurim, and as a result of that, they're going to go through the process again of going down and bringing back up. It's a little bit big. Okay, anyway. We'll call the birurim until all of the birurim are out ad kan l'shona. Behind it, so he wants to conclude, he wants to say like this. When you're talking about birurim, they're not mesukin at one time. But only as it already had a tikkun take place in the birurim mebia biyom rishon v'nisaknen ketzasa yedecha b'zivug the zivug and the mshachas mochin ba'ach biyom rishon v'depana biyom sheni. That's what you get. So the last part, let me just put this in. The zivug, the hamshachas mochin, the zivug that is going to bring mochim down into zon. The ach, that takes place on the first day. The depanim biyom sheni, and the sepanim goes on the second day, the same process. Yordim shuv lebiyah b'laylacha biyom shlishi, so they go down again on the third night. V'sham ozrim levara od birurim, and then those who had a partial tikkun are going to help to be able to bring more up. And after that, at Shachris time, they go back into Yisilus. Then the Yom that takes place on Yom Shlishi, Nishlam Tikkun in the Gamri. And I guess what he means to say is that since the third day is going to bring you into Yichud, the actual Yichud v'Choleda, so the idea is that all of this complicated process, which is going on every day and overlapping, that's the word I was looking for, they're overlapping, each one of them is making it possible for the with the yichud of Varcholeda that comes first, which means, what does Holeda means? It means that the shefa is going to come to us. It's going to come down to us. It's going to come downwards. That's what the Tikkun does. Okay, so let's stop here. And that was a